We do have a couple more questions. I'll give you
Go
want
for
to
it,
take one of
Rob.
those. Jim saying, let's say Nebraska wins big in 22. Does Frost go heavy in the portal again or dial it back with focusing on high school kids?
Well, what's big,
you know,
Jim? What's big? That's
You know?
always the question I want to know. What's big?
Yeah,
Like for some people, big is 6 wins. Some people it's 9. What's big?
15-0.
We gotta be in the dance.
Okay. All right. Well, listen. Yeah. I think the portal's here to stay. You're going to fill all your gaps that you miss out on, whether guys leave or because you didn't get them in recruiting. And the portal, as long as it's set up the way it is, where you can not have to sit out a year and NIL the way it is, I think people are going to live in the portal. Iowa might not, but most schools will.
Yeah, and those schools that don't want to live in it, all it takes is losing a kid or two to the portal, which Iowa now has also. I mean, they just lost a receiver, a couple of weeks ago that now has gone to Purdue, right?
They lost the kick returner,
and they were already short on receivers to begin with, right? And so there's some schools that want to stay, above the fray. We're not going to get into all that NIL and portal. Some of that's out of your control. You start losing players to it.
Yeah.
And now is not a good time to lose players and trying to get portal out because the May 1st date is long past. So, I mean, now you can't bring guys in that can immediately play the way that Wynn and Drew and O'Shawn can do it for us.
The portal is a catalyst too to other guys transferring, right? So you bring in this quarterback who's got 3 years left or 2 years left, and then your freshman quarterback looks up and goes, what the hell? What am I going to play? And so then he's in the portal. He goes someplace, and then that quarterback that's in that place, he ends up getting the portal. It's just, tell two people, I tell two people.
And speaking of which, too,
go ahead. Rob.
Sorry. Oh, I was going to say, speaking of which, too, because there was a name that we didn't even bring up in the quarterback room, and that was Richard Torres, right? And because he's injured, and we didn't even bring his name up when listing out the depth or the size of that quarterback room. True. And then you're talking about these freshman kids that come in that could end up transferring because of kids. I mean, Purdy has 2 years left after 3 years left or something like that on there.
Rob, that's actually something I'm interested in. When I do the fan forum in a week with Glenn Snodgrass, I want to talk with him because he's a football coach, he's a Husker fan, he's also.
You tell him he owes me lunch, and he knows the bet. We had a bet on a player, and you tell him he owes me lunch. We had a bet over DM over a player. You tell him he owes me lunch.
I will absolutely do that. He's also a Husker dad, and what is it like to be his kids on the team has worked hard for the last 2-3 years. And we're guilty of this on our show. We go and create our depth charts and offense and defense that are out there on YouTube and had thousands of views, right? And people are like, they look at it and they're like, oh, that's right or that's wrong. But the point is, we're just here's this new guy comes in and we just put him. All of a sudden, we move the kid to the third team. And what is that like to be a current player sitting there? And it's like, oh, this kid just transfers in, automatically has my spot, hasn't even been here for two minutes. I mean, do I think Mathis is going to start? Probably, right? But at the same token, I've never seen him play. I've never seen him practice one time here either. And sometimes we just assign these guys spots.
I don't know if I was a head coach of a program right now, how much effort do you put into recruiting a freshman quarterback? Like how much effort, even if he's one of the the best guys out there. If you're Alabama, I don't care if he's a 5-star or not. You're gonna sit. You're gonna sit for a while until these other guys who are also.
Well, even Bryce Young said his freshman year.
Yeah, and it's kind of a remarkable program. It's a bad example to use, really, Alabama. But I mean, just to ask these high level recruits to sit for a few years anymore just seems unreasonable with the portal. I don't know. I guess what I'm saying is is it better just to lay back in the cut and see who goes?
Well, when you get someone that transfers in, at least you've kind of secured them because now they can't leave and go.
Second time around is a little better.
I think you said it earlier, Michael. Like you bring in someone in the portal, and then you got a freshman quarterback saying that the freshman sitting there going, "I can leave." And I can leave and go somewhere right away if you've already transferred in.
If it's Dylan Raiola, you spend a lot of time trying to get that kid. But, I mean, the majority, I understand what you're saying. It's almost like when you go out looking for a job, right? They want you go find a new job. They want you to have experience. And you're like, this is a new job for me. How can I have experience at it? Right. But they want to have a guy. And the only way to do that really is to go get a guy who's proven himself in the portal. That's why I think when you look at what Casey Thompson did, I know Texas didn't win a lot of games, but just go back and watch him. Watch his tape. Watch
their defense was so bad.
Watch his anticipation on throws. Watch how when he's in the pocket, the first one, second look. Watch how his head is. And by the way, he's the least athletic out of any of those quarterbacks in that room. Even Richard Torres, based off of tape from high school, is more athletic. But his anticipation and what he can do putting balls in tight spots. He's not going to get the ball down the field on a line. He's got to put air and get rid of it early because he doesn't have a big arm. But everything else he does as well or better than I thought Martinez did.
He approaches it like a pro too. He's really dialed
mature
in.
guy. I mean, growing up with his dad too. I mean, anytime, and I you all have kids.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, you made your share of mistakes when you were growing up. So the first thing you try to make sure is your kids don't make the exact same mistakes. So his dad made mistakes, and so he's going to make sure that he doesn't make those same mistakes.
Yeah, you look at obviously, he's coming from Texas where they didn't have a winning record either. But it's crazy. You look at some of those losses and what he did against Oklahoma and put up 5 touchdowns. Against Kansas, they lost to Kansas. That's a horrible loss, right? Yeah. He had 7 touchdowns.
Yeah. What else you want me to do?
7. It's like what else can the guy do, right? Yeah. And so there are examples there where you can't always just look at the record on things, and certainly he comes with as much accolades and experience as anyone. As we're talking about NIL and transfer portal here, I thought this was kind of interesting. And this was from Alberts. Made this statement here, and he goes, "We'd be totally unwise given the current state of what the past has looked like in some of our sports to just sit idle. I think we have an opportunity right now with the transfer portal. I'm not sure our head coach is
huge proponent.
Thank you. I can't read that with that stupid thing over it.
Over logo, dude.
Thank you. By the way, right now, it's a benefit to us. Long term, are the transfer portal and some of the NIL challenges sustainable? I don't think so. But our job is to create a winning strategy with what we currently face, being willing to do the work to dive in, and it's had good thought. And I think that's part of it.
He's a wordy guy. I bet Twitter's hard for Trev.
I'm a wordy guy. I think I've added too many some of these slides. But
he's been in the media. He's been in front of the media
for
his entire life. Think about how long he's been in front of the media. From the moment he was a junior in high school, he's been in front of the media in different ways. So you learn eventually to speak in that language.
Yep.
You have to.
Hey, we got another question since we're still on transfers too. And Anthony Hayek, I think, Silent J. Maybe, I don't know. With all these transfers coming in and expected to play right away, could this cause a divide between the transfers and those that have been there? And I just want to bring up really quick the interview that I did last week with Chancellor Brewington and talking about NIL and transfers and things like that. And he literally said no. He said that a lot of these guys are coming in and it's like they've been there all along. He said that the transfer guys, they come into the room. Nobody's like looking at anybody like, hey, this guy's going to take their like acting as a team. Like they've been there. Is that the right thing to say? Yeah. Of course it is.
Yeah.
But it in honesty, like I can a lot of times hear when people are trying to like say things because of the media, but he was also extremely relaxed and it felt really honest coming out of his mouth. I don't know. Honky, you were there. I don't know if you could agree or not, but it felt honest from him that there wasn't.
Well, I mean,
it seemed like there's a lot of that.
Sure, it felt honest. I'm not expecting him to lie or anything. I think sometimes this is where the people that will accuse us or you, specifically you, Rob, of being Kool-Aid people is that over the course of an offseason, this is, of course, when all the good things are being said. No one's coming out and saying bad things and everything's hunky-dory and, the team is working harder than they've ever worked before. We're lifting more.
This new lift.
Yeah, we're lifting
throwing
more
up in garbage cans.
Right.
Yeah, garbage cans are full of vomit.
And actually, this is one of my favorite times of the year.
Well,
on
it
Twitter.
has to be.
It's one of my favorite times.
10 years. It's the only time of year.
Well, and this is the time of Twitter year now where weight room photos start coming out. So this is great. I mean, I love that stuff, right? And we're the only ones that lift, and that's a true.
We're the only team ever that gets better in the offseason, yet simultaneously improves not on the win-loss column.
There's always. I obviously didn't play at the college level, but talked to enough of these guys. I've interviewed and done shows with every single position group that's played at Nebraska. Right? I've done shows with kickers, punters, quarterbacks, wide receivers, running backs, obviously. And there's always stuff in the locker room. Look at the prettier girl, who drives the nicer car, who's starting, who's not starting. It's always going to be there. It's just part of the competition. These guys most of them are type A personalities.
For sure.
So, they're going to be pissed when somebody comes in and tries to take their job. Of course they are. Are they going to say that to the media? Probably not.